Good evening and welcome to the April board meeting for the Watertown School District. I'll call the meeting to order, and item 1.1 is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving to item 2.1, roll call. Please note all board members are present. Item 2.2, conflicts of interest. Is there anything to disclose? Okay. Item 2.3, review and approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Thank you.
Move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Moulton. We've got a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the agenda has been approved. Item 2.4, approve the minutes from the March 8th, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. We've got a motion. Is there a second? Second. Yeah, motion and a second have been made. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, item 2.4 has been met. Item 2.5, receive the financial reports for March of 2021. Mrs. Clausen.
Thank you. In the general fund, revenue received included a small amount of tax proceeds along with the regular state aid payment. A federal payment in relation to CARES ESSER 1 in the amount of $210,000 was drawn down to accommodate costs associated with funding supplies, materials, and additional FTE supports as it relates to COVID-related costs. The ending cash position of the general fund reflects an increase when compared to the prior 2 years. Capital outlay and special education received revenue consisting of anticipated tax proceeds and interest income. The $4,405 ending cash balance in special education is at a level of concern, but will increase the month of May with federal payments and taxes as scheduled to be received. Capital outlay saw expenditures over revenue for the month due to the scheduled payment for construction in progress. The ending cash position of this fund is relatively consistent with that of the prior year when the remaining certificate allocation for the remodel of the high school is retained from the balance. The revenue received in the fund of Lake Area Tech was relatively moderate and consisted of several different sources. The month's expenditures significantly exceeded revenue, and the ending cash position of this fund continues to reflect improvement. Lake Area Technical College Bookstore and Food Service saw revenue over expenditures during the month, whereas Educare had they had expenditures over revenue, whereas Educare had revenue over expenditures during the month. The operation of Lake Area Technical College Food Service continues to close monitoring with a fund balance under an appropriate level. Within the operation of the K-12 enterprise funds, the Nutrition Service Fund received a significant payment of federal revenue as associated under the SSO operation of providing free meals to students. This will continue through the end of the school year. Increased revenue took place in the Arena Concessions Fund as a direct reflection of an increase in activities as well as the hosting of state girls gymnastics. I would be happy to answer any questions should you have any.
Thank you, Mrs. Clausen. Are there any questions? Okay. Moving on to item 2.6, student and staff recognition.
All right, we've got quite a load of them tonight, so excited to get on with our student recognition. And for our viewers at home, we do not have them in per our standard this year, but happy to recognize the following groups. Following students qualified for the National Speech and Debate Tournament in June. The event will be hosted in Des Moines, Iowa, and the competition will be remote due to COVID-19 restrictions. In the Dramatic Interp category, we have Megan Outland. In the Humorous Interp category, we have Noelle Dunn. In the Duo Interp category, we have Garrett Von Eye and Aaron Hurdle. And in Congressional Debate, we have Lucy Walker. So let's give a big round of applause for the debaters. We had the following seniors earned academic all-state honors in girls basketball. Maggie Hesch, Abby Bramer, and Olivia Corey. Four boys earned academic All-State for boys basketball. Dawson Schmidt, Cale Stevenson, Jackson Engstrom, and Ben Dahlke, student manager. Congratulations to the Aero Gymnasts for their runner-up finish at the state gymnastics meet held in Watertown in February. Brooke Bollinger placed individually as follows: first on vault, floor, beam, all around, and second on bars. Brooke also made the all-tournament team and is selected for the Sarah Nitz Award, which is based on sportsmanship, gymnastics ability, academics, and character. Let's hear it for Brooke. And then a congratulations to the team on a great season. Team members on the runner-up gymnastics team include Erica Andrews, Caroline Benson, Natalie Benson, Brooke Bollinger, Dawson Briggs, Jaden Dahl, Jerica Fossum, Emmy Graff, Emmy Graff manager, Trinity Hodorf, Lucy Keys, manager, Mackenzie Lewis, Danny Miles, Caitlin Rudebush, Ashley Stanley, London Sykes, Kinsley Van Gilder, and Halston Witt, manager. The girls are coached by Vicki Fisher, the head coach, and Tammy Rohde, assistant coach. Let's hear it for the gymnasts. And wrestling. We had one state champion at 106, Sloan Johansson. Two runners-up at 152, Ben Altoff. And at 170, Lexan Thorson. So let's hear it for the wrestlers. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks to all those students who participate in extracurricular activities. That's nice to see. All right, moving to the discussion items for Lake Area Technical College. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of agenda or non-agenda items for LATC? All right, moving to item 3.2, placement report. Vice President Stiles, welcome.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to present the placement report this evening. As you know, Lake Area Tech, our mission is to change lives and launch careers. So as a data source, this is one of the most important reports that we produce each year because it really measures the employment of our graduates as well as the wages. And so this is one of our greatest measuring tools. And if you'll advance to the next slide, you'll see that our graduate placement report for the 2020 grads, which would be those who graduated in May of 2020 in the middle of COVID, was 99.22%. So this is up from 98.56% for the 2019 grads. So as you can see, the results were still outstanding even despite the challenges that we faced last year. Out of the 806 total graduates, we had 96.4 respond. So 777 of those responded to the survey, which is a very significant amount of students. We have a high response on our survey each year. Of those, 106 are continuing their education or pursuing military careers. And then of those that are employed, there's 659, which is 85.5%, entered into the workforce this past 6 months after graduation. Of those 659, if you break it down a little further, there's 539 that are employed in South Dakota. And then if you look at employed in the training-related field, there's 604 of those students. So over 90% of our students are employed in a training-related field. And then one of the most exciting statistics is the average salary. is over $20 per hour. So $20.79 per hour is the average salary for all of the graduates that responded to the survey, and that's over $43,000 to $43.20 per year. So as you can see, we're really achieving the mission of changing lives and getting them into high wage careers. Please.
Question for you. How does the 83% for employed in South Dakota compare to prior years?
It's about average, so it usually fluctuates between 82 and 84%. One of the good news is that we are actually employing more people in South Dakota than entered into our college, so we're a net importer of workforce. So there are more students that are out of state that actually stay in state. So that's an important statistic. It's something that we really strive for and something that the Build Dakota program has helped us achieve. Thank you. Great question. So if you break it down a little bit further, this is just a graphical representation. But to give you an idea, there are 6 graduates still seeking employment and 6 graduates not in the labor force. And so it's a small number of graduates, and we continue to work with them. However, you can see the majority are employed. On the next slide, it talks about the placement in field and placement in field in South Dakota. We look at these 2 measurements because we want to make sure that we're preparing graduates to be placed in careers that are directly related to their program for their return on investment. And 92% of them were placed in the field. And then when you break it back down to placed in the field in South Dakota, it's 81%. They're actually in the field in South Dakota. So we're growing the state's workforce. And then if you go to the next slide, this one is really impressive to see over the years. We used $20 an hour as a watermark to measure ourselves against, and there are 15 programs that the average salary of all graduates in those programs earned over $20 an hour, which is $40,160 a year. So that's really outstanding. So that's up from 8 last year. So 15 of our 29 programs earn over $20 per hour. And then when you're looking at the highest average salaries, please keep in mind that some of these do include overtime wages. Energy technology is the highest at 29.1, so $29.10 per hour, and that's followed by registered nursing, which is $27.39 cents per hour. And you would notice that would probably be true given the COVID pandemic and the need for PPE production and then also for nursing. But those 2 programs are leading the way in wages.
One more question.
Sure.
So all of the wages here and up there would include overtime wages?
They would. So we partner with the Department of Labor. Julie Mullenhoff is able to look at the unemployment insurance records for us. It doesn't have anybody's wages from out of state or if they're self-employed. But other than that, we are able to collect that labor market unemployment insurance wages. And so it would be their quarterly earnings.
Okay. Thanks.
Great question. And like I said, each year, Julie Mullenhoff does an excellent job for us. We're able to contract out with the Department of Labor to make sure that this is a valid report and that the data that we're reporting to you and then to the consumers is accurate. So we're lucky to have that partnership with the Department of Labor and then to have that wage data to go beyond just a regular survey to our students. The other thing I'd like to point out is that our full placement report, if you'd like more details by program, is on your desk in the legal size sheet, and on the back of it is the summary data that's reflected in these charts. And with that, I'd stand for any questions.
Do you break down your statistics even deeper to
Sure.
another level? Do you count number of students that stay in Watertown or stay in this area, region?
We don't formally report that, but we do collect that data, and that's something I could follow up with you on and provide that information. We actually produce an internal report that has by program the employers that have employed the graduates and has a lot more detailed data, but we want to make sure and respect the privacy of the employers, and so we keep that internal when we do review that data.
I'd like to congratulate Lake Area on the partnership that you established with businesses, because I know you're always adding programs and judging what the area needs and what the partners with business do need.
Thank you. That's so important to us. And if we don't adapt to industry, then we won't be able to achieve results like this. So we couldn't do it without our industry partners. That's a great point.
If I could make one more comment on my previous question, which was about the overtime wages.
Yes.
If you have access to the data with just the average hourly rate, not including overtime wages, that may be more impactful to more employers.
Sure.
As far as setting wage ranges, because it's a little bit hard to know if some programs are heavy on overtime and others aren't. It just might provide a little bit more meaningful data for employers to set their hourly wage scales.
That's a great point. Right now what we have is the quarterly wage data, and so then we have to just extrapolate out using a formula. And then we are working on the state level with a partner with the U.S. Census Bureau, which would actually give us access to more like W-2 data. And so that's something that would be coming in the next 2 years to try and get more accurate data and making sure that we're able to measure the employment on the same level between the programs and between the individuals. So we're excited about continuing to refine this process. I will note that Lake Area Tech is unique in having the Department of Labor verification for our placement report. So that's a step above what many other colleges are able to do, but it's certainly not perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Are there any other questions? Okay. Then moving forward with the action items for Lake Area Technical College. Item 4.1, personnel. 4.1.1, resignations.
We have 2 resignations this month, and we would recommend approving them as presented.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the resignations.
Thank you, Mrs. Reiber. Is there a second?
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Are there any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 4.1.1 has been passed. Item 4.1.2, contract recommendations and addendums.
We have several contract recommendations and addendums, and some of these are in preparation for next fall or next contract year. So we're able to fill some of those full-time positions. We have some corporate education, adjunct instructor, and part-time temporary positions available, and I would recommend approving them as presented.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the contract recommendations and addendums.
Thank you, Mr. Stein. Is there a second? Second. We've got a motion and a second. Are there comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 4.1.2 has been passed. Item 4.2, property. 4.2.1, request permission to seek bids on parking lot.
Yes, as we continue on with our campus plan, our campus building plan, we need to accommodate additional parking, and so we have the lots that are on the north end of campus that we were able to clear off last spring, and so we would like to seek bids for a parking lot on the north end. It would be approximately 110 parking spaces that would be added to our facility.
Okay, is there a motion? Thank you, Ms. Moulton. Is there a second? Second. We've got a motion and a second. Are there comments or questions? All right. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 4.2.1 has been passed. Item 4.2.2, surplus property resolution.
So this resolution is to declare the house located at 1302 Arrow Avenue as surplus property. Our intention is to demolish this home using our heavy equipment operator program, and then also create additional space for parking as we continue to build out our campus build plan.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the surplus property resolution.
And a second? We have a motion and a second. Are there comments or questions? I think it's cool that you get to do the work and utilize your programs to do the work.
Isn't that excellent?
Great training.
And our students do a nice job.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Seeing no further comments or questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, item 4.2.2 has been approved. Thank you,
Thank you.
Vice President.
Thank you, President Leonards.
All right, moving to discussion items for 14.4, item 5.1. Is there anyone here to speak on public input for agenda or non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none, moving to item 5.2, Northeast Technical High School report. Dr. Danielson.
Yeah, we did not have a superintendent meeting in the month of April. We will have one on Tuesday, May 4th. And then the full board of Northeast Tech will meet on Wednesday, April 25th at 5:45. And I believe Northeast Tech is still planning on their spring project day on May 12th. That's a Wednesday. They are doing some outdoor social distancing to make sure that happens instead of cramming them all into the Northeast Tech hallways as some years have been. So that is happening, so get your bids ready to get your Adirondack chairs.
Agree. If you've never been to that, put it on your calendars. They are talented. Okay, item 5.3, ELL Program School Improvement. We have two guests here. I will let you introduce yourselves.
Thank you. Want me to go first?
Well, Dr. Nye, thank you. I'm Mr. Greg DeSpigler, and I'm at Lincoln Elementary. Thanks for having me tonight.
And I'm Dr. Maria Nye, and I am the Assistant Director of Special Services and the EL Coordinator for our school district. So just a quick update on kind of what our student enrollment has been looking like. During the 2019-20 school year, those numbers are not reflected on here. There was a substantial increase in the number of EL students, which required the district to add a half-time teacher, and then for this school year, a second full-time teacher, so that we could provide the necessary services. Prior to the start of this school year of 2020-21, we continued to experience an increase in numbers from students who transferred from nearby school districts. This is reflected by the range in the numbers under the column for 2021. So for example, at the elementary level with Lincoln, we started with 24 students. Currently, as of April 1st, we're to 21 students, okay? Similar with WIS, the intermediate school, those were our numbers at the beginning and where we're at right now. The Watertown Middle School, Watertown High School. So the total number of students that we provided services for during this school year have been 65 students. Since the completion of the access test, for one reason or another, we've had a couple of families move out of our district, largely in part due to work and migrant service or migratory reasons. And so currently we have 57 EL students who are enrolled and receiving services from the EL program. And that last column, we have the 2021, 2022 prediction of students who might be begin the year in our program next year. And this is based on our current enrollment numbers and also the students who are attending our Garfield preschool program and who will be attending kindergarten for sure at Lincoln next year. And then, of course, taking into account our graduation for this year of those students. So beginning in the fall, if everything would just stay the same and without other students moving in, which we predict there will be students moving in, as of right now, we would start at the elementary level with 19 students. The intermediate school would begin with 14. Middle school would have 13. High school 15, with a total of 61 EL students beginning the start of 2021-2022 school year. Just a couple of things here. One of the things that I wanted to note was that over the next several years, we're going to see some more students at the secondary level than we have previously experienced, especially because a lot of our EL families are staying in the community. And so as those students, start at Lincoln and they move up, hopefully by the time they reach high school, they shouldn't be receiving EL services if provided with adequate services that they require. but more families are moving to the community, and we're seeing higher numbers of newcomers come in at an older age, which require greater number of services to be provided at that secondary level. As far as the languages that we have in our community, currently we have students who speak 8 different languages other than English. These include Spanish, French, which is mostly spoken by our Haitian or African students. We also have Tagalog, which is a language from the Philippines, Vietnamese, German, Chinese, and there are various dialects in our community with Chinese. We also have Telugu, which is from India. And then we also have Pidgin variations, which typically include a mix of French with either African or Caribbean or native South American languages. So there's a variety of Pidgin languages. The majority of our EL students, however, do speak Spanish. It should also be noted that not all of our EL students arrive from other countries. We have many EL students who were born in the United States, but English is not the primary language spoken at home. As far as how we communicate with these families, we have 2 options. Since last year, Language Link is a service that we began utilizing in our school district last year. This service helps our teachers and administrators provide translators when we are unable to provide an in-person translator, including for parent-teacher conferences, IEP meetings, and any other reason teachers or parent administrators may need to utilize a translator to effectively communicate with families. We do, however, have several community translators that are available to us. When students first register for school in the Watertown School District, part of the registration process includes a brief language survey, which helps us to identify possible EL students, as well as the language services that may be required. This language survey is required for all students by both federal and state law. As far as our EL department staff, we have, as I mentioned before, we do have 2 ESL teachers for the first time in Watertown School District, which is fantastic. Melissa Neiman is our ESL teacher for grades K through 6, so she's at both Lincoln and the intermediate school. She starts out at the intermediate school in the morning and then transitions over to Lincoln for the rest of her day. We also have Christy Herding. She is our ESL teacher for grades 7 through 12. She begins her day at the Watertown High School and then transitions over to the middle school for the afternoon. This year, also Becca Briggs, who is a middle school and high school instructional coach, has also been sort of designated as our ESL instructional coach so that she can provide guidance to general classroom teachers on how to differentiate instruction and better support their EL students in their classroom, as well as support our ESL teachers. Both of our ESL teachers are new ESL teachers, so they're both certified to teach, but they're both also working on their ENL endorsements and working hard towards meeting that goal. So the thing we're going to talk about is our curriculum and instruction first, and Greg.
So about 3 years ago, our journey began with a focus on, improving our instruction for all of our kids, and in particular for what we run targeted school assistance for, is our EL instruction. So we started with the very, very beginning phase of something called sheltered instruction, or Psyop strategies. And that was a training offered through the Migrant, Title III Migrant Consortium. And so our entire staff was trained that summer. It was in June, and that began our journey toward where we are now. In working with, all of our kids, especially those learning the English language, we did learn the process of how language is acquired for our kids and for our families that are immersed in our culture. And so that was a very important part of that. And what we also learned is how we prepare is just as important, if not most important, and understanding the types of preparation that we can provide so that our kids can be, all of our kids can be associated or exposed to content standards and language standards. So that's where we began, Psyop strategies. And then we came throughout that year, and we had to write something called a school success action plan. And we studied a ton of data for that. And we came up with basically the A-B that you see up there. And it involved, number one, our Psyop strategies, where we're going to train our entire staff and keep them trained and keep them reviewed in sheltered instruction strategies. So no matter who our children are with, classroom teacher, specialty teacher, doesn't matter, we're all using the same type of strategies throughout our instruction. Also, we found in our work toward improving is lesson plans were very important, especially the common language standards. And what are the learning standards? What are the objectives? And exposing all of our kids to that, providing evidence-based instructional strategies, and using a tool that would align us. We came up with a very good tool in the planbook.com format. And so we've been using that. We've taken that, and we've also provided a weekly time with our staff where they meet as a grade level team and they lesson plan. So they talk standards and they ensure that, when they're planning, they're all on the same page. So the progress that is completed throughout the school year is a common progress that follows district curriculum with fidelity. And so those are the things that we've really worked on in A. In B, we were evolving into an ELA curriculum, and it was using that school-wide curriculum with fidelity, and we have a Cadillac of a curriculum that really is built for what we learned in sheltered instruction and what we learned for our kids in working with small groups and large groups and individualized instruction and keeping them engaged. And so that was the second piece, and we had all of the benchmarks in place, all of the training in place, and we had the coaches in place to really bring this alive. And I think we've utilized that. We really are a team, K4, at Lincoln as we work with our kids, no matter what grade, what classroom that they are working in. So when they're in classrooms, they're always exposed to the curriculum standards, and when they're with our ELL instructor, Melissa Neiman, they're working on language development, but most importantly, more than just conversational language. That's the key. It has to be language that is built for curriculum understanding. And so that's the key. So that's where we are. And the only thing I can give to you, I know you like data, and this is the RTI, this is the benchmark data. And so the two pieces of data that I can give to you is reading and math data, and I broke it down by grade level. So in the most simplistic way to provide to you our growth from fall to winter in all of our Ames Web, if you look at the left side of the reading graph that says national, that's the average growth of all the kids at national that was in the Ames Web Plus. That's how much they grew, the points that they grew by. So, and if you look at all of our Lincoln kids, that's the middle, okay, that's the middle piece of the graph there in reading. That's how much our Lincoln kids grew in reading, okay, from fall to winter. But what I'm noticing here is in our fourth grade, our EL kids, they start much further behind, but they grew. Look at the amount that they are growing. They're either with our peers ahead of our national growth, and they are growing, and that I'm most proud of. Math is the same way, okay? And there are several kids in grade 4 that, that are exposed to all of our supports, our TI supports, the ELL supports, everything that we're doing to ensure that they are growing in math and reading. So that was a good one there. We have one student in grade 3 who's an EL student, and he didn't show up to take the reading test that one day. I don't think that was my opinion, but he took the reading test, and he did not make the growth that we anticipated. I don't know, that's not easily explained, but we're supporting him in everything that we can do in reading and the things that he needs to do to grow in ELA. So if you look at the math side of it, man, we're doing the right thing there. He's grabbing that, and he's understanding that with the national norms and our students and himself. So it's good.
So just to clarify this, though, then, Mr. DeSpiegler, that bar graph for the ELL for third grade really just represents one student.
One.
Yes.
Yep.
So
But-
it's not like it's a
Correct.
group of third graders.
Correct. I'm fine with that. That's just data. Okay, now grade 2, if you look the same thing, we're growing. Okay? What we found in looking at this data is we're doing additional things in math right now to support some of our kids that are new to country. So we're really providing additional RTI supports with our kids in math. And then grade 1, we're growing. In grade 1, the national, then our kids, and then our ELs in grade 1 in both math and reading. And then in kindergarten, they're the most fluid kids. I really like and enjoy how these kids learn and they grasp and they take hold and they blossom and grow like the spring grass. How's that? So it's been fun to watch that process. So we threw it all together and we looked at it, you know, how much did our school grow from fall to winter? How much did our district grow from fall to winter? And how much did our ELs grow from fall to winter? And this is based on that bell-shaped curve, okay? So the Lincoln, when you throw everybody in the same pot, all our Lincoln kids in the same pot, as a school, in reading, we grew, you know, to that 77th percentile, okay? The district grew at the 66th percentile, but our ELs grew to the 52nd percentile. That's over halfway in that bell-shaped curve. But when you look at math, Lincoln grew at the 83rd percentile, but look at our ELs. They're at the 57th percentile. And so I tried to break it down in a picture that showed you the bell-shaped curve. If you go to that next, that would show you that the Lincoln All Students is red. So the left side is reading. They're doing very well. There's that bell-shaped curve. The top half and the bottom half, the 25%. But everything in the middle is the 50th percentile. So our ELs are right there. They're growing. And that I'm proud of. I'm proud of our staff. I'm proud of our kids. I'm proud of Melissa. I'm proud of the work that they've done and the amount of effort that they're putting into learning every day. Because it doesn't take just a day. It takes many days of the things that you see there through the RTI, through everything that we provide our kids in their throughout their day with Dreambox and Imagine Learning, which can supplement what we're doing in classrooms. But if you come into our school and you see on our school, you'll see I can statements on the board. And you'll see the letters SLRW, speaking, listening, reading, and writing. That's the language standards. That's how our children show our teachers how they are going to prove to themselves that they are learning and understanding the content of the standard presented and the lesson presented in the lesson. So it's really good. And we've done a ton of book studies. We've earned, our recent one is grading for equity. And so we're going to take that. We've done some WIDA level things with Becca Briggs, and she started that with us last year, and we like to continue to align those WIDA can-do descriptors to the standards-based report card. I think those are some of the next steps that are really will continue to grow what we're doing as a team at Lincoln Elementary, K-6, K-4, and then moving them into the 5th and 6th grade also. So that's kudos to the staff, and that's thank you for, you know, providing that extra individualized attention and small group attention for our language learners with Melissa Neiman also. So that was good. Okay.
At the Watertown Intermediate School, we started the school year with 17 students altogether, including 2 students from IC who we provide services for. Each student receives between 25 to 45 minutes of English language development services each day, depending on their English proficiency levels. At the intermediate school, there are grade level EL pods is what we kind of call them. EL students are strategically placed into these classes led by teachers who have had the Psyop training, which Mr. DeSpieler had spoken about earlier, and I'll go into a little bit more detail later on. And right now we have 6 intermediate school teachers who are currently participating in a Psyop course with the Title III Migrant Consortium, of which we are a part of, because we do not our school district doesn't have enough EL students enrolled currently to kind of run our own independent EL program. We're part of a consortium. In order to have your own independent program, you need to have a minimum of 75 students. which we're actually very close to. So at the Watertown Middle School, we currently have 6 7th grade students and 4 8th grade students. Each of those students currently receives 40 minutes of English language development services daily. This is a huge increase compared to what they were able to receive last year. Last year, any middle school student probably only was able to receive about 20 minutes of ELD twice, maybe 3 times a week from the EL teachers. And that was largely due to the increase of numbers and the fact that we didn't have 2 full-time teachers. So they're receiving a substantial increase of services that was greatly needed. The Watertown High School currently has 4 9th grade students, 3 10th grade students, 1 of who recently moved, 5 11th grade students, 2 12th grade students. 1 student graduated early in January and is preparing to attend LATC for photography, actually. Students at the high school participate either in a 45-minute skinny, it's called, or a 90-minute block of ELD services. This year was just a little bit different at the high school. We had originally planned to have 2 blocks at the beginning of the school year, but with a significant number of EL students who had opted to participate in online learning, we had to figure out a way to provide ELD services for those students while they were online. And so we eliminated one of our blocks at the high school and placed all of our ESL students into the first block. And then second block, Christy Herding, our 7th through 12th grade ESL teacher, provided the online ESL services for all online ESL students, K through 12, during block 2 and then the last 30 minutes of the day. But I'll show you more about that later. So we're currently in the process of redefining and specifying more what our expectations are going to be at the high school with an increased number of EL students who are moving up into the high school. Previously, we just didn't have enough EL students to really be more specific with the instruction that they needed, because it just varied year to year. Now we're starting to see some more consistency in our numbers and quite possibly a growth, which has led us to develop 2 different courses beginning next year. So the first course, starting in the fall of 2021, we'll have this English Language Development 1 course. And this course was based on their proficiency, and the recommended time of services for this course is guided by the South Dakota DOE and also the Title III and Migrant Consortium. Each course will utilize different curriculum as each curriculum focuses on different levels of language proficiency while still providing grade-relevant academic content and vocabulary. Course 1, English Development 1, is for the students who are at the beginning stages of English language development and need the greatest level of support. The second course, Course 2, English Language Development 2, is for students who often have great social communication and can be seen by teachers as no longer needing services. However, it is at this stage that it is most critical to continue with language development, as they are now ready to learn and develop higher language skills that are required in their core content areas and in order to meet grade level standards and expectations. However, at this course level, we decided, rather than having it as a 90-minute block per day, we're going to offer 2 separate ELD courses based on the number of students that we have at those proficiency levels, and in skinnies, so 45-minute periods each day. That way they could also participate in an intervention or another course that might be offered during that same block, so it wouldn't take up their entire block. As far as online instruction goes, like I said earlier, this year we had 10 EL students in grades K through 12 who started the year participating in online learning. I'm happy to report that all students are now participating in-person learning as of 4th quarter. Christy Herding, our 7 through 12 ELD teacher, taught all online students. Thankfully, last year when we adopted our new curriculum, because we purchased a great deal of curriculum, we were provided with free online student editions, which were utilized during that instruction. And so that was very useful and very helpful during that instructional time. As Mr. DeSpiegler had mentioned, we have Psyop Training. This is something that the Watertown School District has been doing for a long time. The Psyop Training is provided for free by the Title III and Migrant Consortium. What that means is it's an instructional approach for teachers to integrate content and language instruction for student learning through a new language. So some of the main things that it focuses on, though, is those content objectives and language objectives that Mr. DeSpiegler spoke about. Content objectives are statements simply that identify what students should know and be able to do in subject area for a given lesson. They support school district and state content standards and learning outcomes, and they guide teaching and learning in the classroom. Language objectives are statements that identify what students should know and be able to do while learning English in a given lesson. And they support the students' language development, often focusing on vocabulary, functional language skills in reading, writing, listening, and speaking, and grammatical and language learning strategies. And then finally, instructional strategies to differentiate instruction based on language needs of the students. Professional development. This year at Lincoln, one of the key professional development opportunities that were provided by the Title III Migrant Consortium was equitable grading. And that is an opportunity that we're looking to expand on next year at the secondary level, especially as we have increased numbers at the secondary level, and general education classroom teachers are asking more and more questions about what can we do to, how do we grade these students, what are the things that we should be doing, what are the things that we look for. General education and our ESL teachers have been able to participate in multiple professional development opportunities through the consortium this year, including how to utilize, what is the program I'm thinking of right now? The iPad. Thank you. Imagine Learning. So including Imagine Learning, which is one of the supplemental resources that we have. And then also strategies on how to work with migrant students and how to work with translators. So the biggest thing that we always have to keep in mind is how do we effectively monitor our progress and our language development. One of the most important part is that all students who have been identified as EL students have LAPs. The EL teacher updates these language acquisition plans, is what it stands for, at the beginning of each school year, meets with the parents and the classroom teacher. They go over the goals of what the student needs to do to accomplish to reach the next level of language proficiency, sort of like benchmarks. Similar to what we might do for students who are on IEPs, we have LAPs that focus on the language acquisition component. And they look at the access score, which leads us into the next piece. We had just finished up our access testing and found out today that we will have our access scores on May 24th. I'll be able to access those online, which is exciting. So access testing is administered each school year. It's our state's, we're part of the WIDA consortium, so the access test is what the state of South Dakota uses to monitor language acquisition and student proficiency in English. And that's given every spring. This year's timeline was from January 25th through March 12th. We had a 1 week extension due to COVID. The access is divided into 4 parts, including reading, writing, listening, and speaking. For grades 4 through 12, the assessment is completely online. Grades 1 through 3 are online for reading, listening, and speaking. The writing portion is in booklet format. And kindergarten is administered 1-to-1, and it takes about an hour. The WIDA consortium scores everything with the exception of the kindergarten portion, which is locally scored by our ESL teachers. So I'm looking forward to our scores because I'm hoping that, I mean, even though this has been an unusual year, I'm interested to see how the increase in services might start to be reflected. The next part of our program is actually the migrant program. This slide just outlines how we determine eligibility for students in the migrant program. Not all of our EL students are migrant. Migrant doesn't necessarily mean that you also have to be an EL student. Has nothing to do with the language that you speak or your ethnic background. It simply means that your family is moving due to necessity and your job has something to do with agricultural or fishing work. That could include with food processing. In this area, for us, it's largely due to the dairies, but we are going to be seeing some changes in a couple of counties next to us with another food processing plant that's going up, and then Hamlin County is also going to have a large, I think it's a dairy or some sort of 2,000 head of cattle is what I was told. So I can foresee that we might have another increase of EL students this next school year with changes in the surrounding counties as they often send their children here to school here in Watertown. So, and I myself am going to be attending virtually this year, and the South Dakota Department of Education is paying for me to attend the Migrant Education Conference. One of the benefits of doing this, and it's not all day, it's on those days, but it doesn't take the entire day, thank goodness, especially via Zoom. But it provides state and district leaders with updated information related to federal legislation and educational guidelines, as well as resources. It's also an opportunity for us to collaborate with other local and state educational leaders who work in what are called small states. South Dakota is what's considered a small state as far as migrant and ESL population. Not because of generally speaking, because of our overall state population and then the number of people that we have. And so our needs are very different than what the needs of California are, and so on and so forth. So it gives us an opportunity to collaborate and see what they're doing and how we can incorporate, maybe learn from each other as well. So as far as family and community communications, we have really had some high participation rates at the parent-teacher conferences, K through 12, especially this year. I was pretty happy with that. We have some significant support from our locally contracted translators, and connections with our ESL and classroom teachers have made with families. They are just outstanding. I'm also working with Glacial Lakes Multicultural Center. For the last several years, Karen Jaskulka, who was a previous ESL teacher for the Watertown School District, sat on that board. She has invited me to take her spot on that board. So I sat in my first meeting this last month. It's not official yet, but I'm looking forward to being able to continue work with them, as I think that they're going to be vital if we do experience another influx of migrant students to our community, and help maintain some communication and connections between the school and our EL population. We did try this year. So one of the things that we had tried to achieve this year was to hire a migrant and EL liaison with our funds that we received for our school improvement funds. It was proved very difficult to do, partially because we were not able to use our funds for salary and benefits, and it would have had to be contracted. However, there has been a change, and so one of the things that we're trying to do for the next school year is to, when we apply for our new funds, is to try and look at the possibility of hiring a migrant and EL liaison, which this person means is that they are the person who helps join our school with the families and the community. I myself was a migrant and ESL teacher and homeschool liaison in 2012, and it proved vital to have that person also reaches out to the businesses or the employers of the families to make sure that we are reaching all of the students. Oftentimes, students can be missed, or families feel scared, or they're unfamiliar with coming into school, and this helps bridge that gap and make sure that we have high attendance and total school success. So, And our district-wide goals, we're currently updating our allow plan. It hasn't been updated since 2008. And that essentially outlines our district's policies and procedures for staff and families. We want to continue to increase the number of teachers trained at the secondary level in Psyop. Implementation of a new kindergarten curriculum. That was not ordered last year, but we are ordering a new kindergarten curriculum for our EL students this year that aligns with the curriculum that we purchased for grades 1 through 12. And then continue to implement the new curriculum and monitor fidelity of instruction and intended outcomes. So that's it. Any questions?
Ooh, that was a lot.
Well, thank you, Greg.
That was good.
Greg cut his down.
That was good. Questions, you guys?
Try this one. Fundings, federal, state, local, percentages.
Well, we don't have our own Title III funds per se because we don't have our own program. So I don't have any funds that come in for the Migrant program right now. I don't have any funds that are specifically designated as Title III funds. So, and Heidi can probably give us some feedback on that a little bit too.
Well, the school improvement funds that they're currently operating under are one-time funding that do not continue from year to year. You have to apply for them. So that's what they're currently using for some of the implementations of. But that's where when she mentioned that liaison position, it wasn't able to be funded as a salary and benefit piece, and that is due to it not being a continuing funding process. So.
And actually, our goal is not to be in school improvement, so we're hoping to get out of that. So those funds would go away as well because they only come with the designation.
Does that include grants as well?
That is a grant. So it is. Yep.
So the 1003 funds that we use to purchase and provide the curriculum and the training and the books that we use for book study and the cooperation that we have with the Title III consortium, all of that funding is state. That's just a year-by-year funding. So that wasn't anything that what we've done here so far wasn't anything above and beyond that. So we're limited year by year on those expenses. And what isn't used goes back to the kitty, and what you do use, you have to be accountable for, period.
And that consortium, is that regional, state?
So we're in the Northeastern Consortium. So there's different consortiums all around the state, and we're in this one region, and it's run by the state, but with so Jennifer Palmer is our person at the state who leads us, and it gives us the benefit of having someone come in and do professional development, and it's free to us as long as we're a part of that. So
it sounds as if you're already developing contingency plans in case there's a growth.
Yeah, I think we always have to have it in the forefront, and I think that's one reason why staying connected to the community is really important, so we can stay on top of that too.
Tell me about one-on-one services between the teacher and the child. Is that computer time? Is it software, or is it actually human-to-human?
Like in class?
Mm-hmm.
So
the pull-out.
Yes, we do. So it's it wouldn't be one-to-one, but they're by grade level usually. At the intermediate school, middle school, and high school, they can be mixed grade levels and based on proficiency levels. With COVID this year, at the intermediate and middle school, we've really kept them separated by grade level because we didn't want to have a whole lot of mixing between student populations, but that can be flexible depending on how the situation turns out next year. But for example, at Lincoln, it's by grade level because our curriculum is also based on grade level expectations and standards for EL students. So our grade level is focused on, our curriculum is grade level for each grade. So we have a separate one for our EL students at first, a separate one for second grade, etc. At the high school level, it's 9 through 12. So.
How many years do you anticipate students generally, on average, needing ELL services?
It usually takes anywhere from 5 to 7 years before they're considered proficient. Our exit score is a proficiency level of 5. Native speaking is a proficiency level of 6.
You know, one thing I was thinking of when you asked about funding, the state did change the state funding formula here 7-8 years ago, and there is a multiplier of 1.25 for our identified through the access testing for an ESL student. So there is some additional funding that goes into the general fund that helps us. That's what actually, you know, we put that, essentially you could say we put that towards our instructors that we dedicate to the ESL program.
For the access test, is there an adult sitting with the student if they cannot read what's on the screen, or this is all software online? Is that correct?
Yes, so it's tiered to their proficiency level and to their grade level. So students are assessed by grade level, and then they're put into what's called, well, they're grade level clusters, and then there's tiers. There's tiers A, B, and C. So all students begin by taking the reading and the listening portions of the assessments. Typically, we administer only 1 test a day. This year, which is what we did this year, with the exception of our private school students, we administered 2 tests a day. They're administered the reading and the listening portions, and then those are automatically scored, and it generates the next 2 tests, or it determines what test level they will be evaluated at for writing and for speaking. So it monitors their progress already at the first 2 points, and it tells me, okay, now I need to place these group of kids together, and I can place this group of kids together because they're at the same tiers. I specifically break them out like that for grades 1 through 3 if they have to take the paper one. If they're doing it online, we don't have to divide them by tiers because they can't see what the other person is writing about or speaking about. But it is supervised. So the ESL teacher is the one who is proctoring the test. And then this year I supervised the proctoring for grades K through 6, and then Becca Briggs supervised the proctoring for grades 7 through 12.
Are there any other questions from the board? Thank you to the both of you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
All right, we are moving on to action items for 14.4. Item 6.1, approval of the bills. Is there a motion to pay the bills?
I'll make the motion to approve the bills.
Thank you, Mr. Stein. Is there a second? We've got a motion and a second. Comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 6.1 has been approved. Item 6.2, personnel. 6.2.1, resignations. Mr. Stacy.
Hello. Yes, we have 6 classified, 6 certified, and 4 activity positions for you to consider.
And I would make the note that those activity positions are considered pending suitable replacement.
All right, we have, is there a motion?
Motion to approve resignations.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, item 6.2.1, the resignations have been approved. Item 6.2.2, contract recommendations and addendums.
Yes, the 1 classified position is for this school year, and then the 5 certified here in front of you are for next school year.
Okay, is there a motion?
Make the motion to approve the contract recommendations and addendums.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 6.2.2 has been approved. Item 6.2.3, the authority to hire.
Yes, I'm bringing forth a authority to hire for a special ed instructor for the 2021-2022 school year.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Stein. Is there a second? Thank you, Mrs. Reiber. We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 6.2.3 has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6.3 is property. 6.3.1, consider the arena roof repair bid.
Yes, 3 bids were received in relation to the roof repairs of the arena. We are recommending the approval of the base bid received from ProTech Roofing and Sheet Metal Incorporated at a bid price of $135,880.
Is there a motion for this to be approved?
Move to approve the roof repair bid.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Moulton. We have a motion and a second. Are there comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item 6.3.1 has been approved. Item 6.4, authorize continued participation in the ASB/SD's workers' compensation coverage.
Yes, the district requests to continue participation under the coverage benefits of associated school boards. As a reminder, a December 1 deadline is in place to provide board-approved written notice of the intention to seek bids for the subsequent coverage year. So we'd request approval of participation.
Is there a motion?
I move authorization for continued participation in the workers' compensation coverage as provided by associated school boards.
Thank you, Ms. Moulton. Is there a second? Thank you, Mrs. Reiber. We have a motion and a second. Are there comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 6.4 has been approved. Item 6.5, reauthorize the seeking of quotes for audit services.
Yes, you will recall that this was on the agenda for March. We did not receive any quotes for audit services. We are requesting that the school board reauthorize the business manager to solicit quotes in relation to the completion of the district's audit of the 2021 fiscal year. We are hopeful that sending out information to several firms as recommended by other districts we will receive some interest.
Okay, is there a motion for this reauthorization?
Move to reauthorize bidding for the audit.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Moulton. We have a motion and a second. Are there comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 6.5 has been approved. Item 6.6.
We do not have any open enrollments this evening for you, but we do have 2 132810s, and we recommend for your approval.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Reiber. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval on 132810s. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, item 6.6.2 has been approved. Moving to communications. Dr. Danielson.
Yes, thank you. Our current COVID numbers, we have 8 positive students, 0 positive staff members. We have another 45 students out with close contacts and 2 staff members out with close contacts, for a total of 414 students for the year and 126 staff members for the year. So those numbers have really stayed down compared to the fall since the start of the new year in January. And then a couple of updates on our graduation ceremonies. Lake Areas is May 14th at 4 p.m. in the Watertown Arena, and Watertown High School is May 30th at 2 p.m. in Watertown High School. And I just wanted to note that those will be in-person ceremonies, but they will be ticketed events. So the graduates will receive that information to be able to get the tickets for the events. So not necessarily open attendance for those due to the size of the graduating classes, but they will be. Our plan is to hold both of those events in person at the regularly scheduled date and time. And like I said, the graduates will get that information.
All right, item 7.2, board report to superintendent.
Yes, I wanted to please note that petitions to run for the school board became available on April 6th, with a deadline for filing on Friday, May 7th. Petitions are available in the office of the business manager. We currently have 2 3-year terms available, and the election will take place on June 15th.
Okay. I will inform the public I have decided not to run. I have had 7+ years on the board. I was appointed years ago and then decided to run. So I have loved the experience. It's very rewarding. But it's also time for new blood. So it's a great adventure.
I guess my term is up also, and I will not be running. Thank you.
All right. Any other board reports to the superintendent? Okay. At this point, we need to move into executive session. So we need a motion to move into executive session for negotiations and legal matters. Can I get a motion?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, so we are now in executive session. Thank you all for your attendance.